gorgeous souls. My name is Rochelle, and this is the DIY Affiliates and Collectives Soul Journey. Are you going through an awakening? Energy is everything. You are manifesting your reality at this very moment, whether you realize it or not. Are you seeing symbols or synchronicities, such as 11, 11, 11, 12, 12, 12? I'm not even sure what that is. You are not alone, looking for the answers to the questions that you have in your mind. Hearing, oh, why don't you raise your frequency? Well, what does that mean? I've done a lot of research, and also using my own experiences and wisdom, and learning how to discern between what is information, misinformation, what is deception, what is lies. Are you looking for answers to questions that you may have in your mind about raising your own vibration, creating the right energies and frequencies around you? And what does that mean? And why should it matter to me? Can I really reach another level of awareness? How do I manifest? And can I become a master manifester? You may be a twin flame and have a special life purpose. So what is a twin flame? Or what about a higher level of awareness or another consciousness? What does that mean? Manifesting. I know you've probably heard about the law of attraction, but what is a manifestor? And what is a master manifestor? Manifestors are naturally connected to the universe and bring to life things even outside of their own consciousness or logical mind. Are you looking for help, the sacred knowledge to understand the divine universe? What is the difference between a spirit guide, a guardian angel, an archangel, or higher self? What are chakras? And why do I care? What do chakras have to do with my life? What is the difference between a soulmate and a twin flame? All of these questions and more are answered in my life purpose, and my soul path is to answer all of the above questions by co-creating with the universe and making inspiring shorts, videos, playlists, podcasts. You need help from the universe to discover your own life's purpose and your own soul's journey. I hear you can manifest your own reality through thoughts, intentions, affirmations, words, and actions. Very powerful. If you're resonating with this video so far, then please join our soul tribe, a group of like-minded souls who are willing and able to help the collective grow in spirituality, consciousness, and realize that we are more than what we think we are. We are much more. We are more than the more. You to find your own soul's purpose and your own life's path through your awakening to a soulmate or a twin flame journey. Start to feel the energy around you, the vibration and the frequency, the algorithm for manifesting a desired outcome through understanding 5 of the many 20 to over 80 universal laws that govern the energy that we are creating around us at all times, and manifesting any desired outcome using laws that govern universal energy, such as the law of divine oneness. We are all connected. You are now connected to me. I am connected to the universe. You are now connected to the universe through me. The law of vibration. Everything and everybody offers up a vibration. The vibration creates the frequencies that we are sending out to the universe. The law of attraction. Like will attract like into your life. positive will attract positive into your life. However, negative will attract negative into your life. But that is the law of attraction, the law of gratitude. When you feel grateful, it's one of the highest emotions that you can have to raise your frequency. The law of cause and effect. Everything in the universe is all in one spot. Everything is all together. When one thing moves in the universe, everything else shifts. This creates a ripple effect of causes and effects. There is an original starting point for every cause. Cause and effect will always prevail. Some people say that it is the law of karma. You will also find all of my past videos that I have created. Over 400 videos on how to build a YouTube channel, how to build a WordPress website, how to create an affiliate website, social media marketing and content marketing for beginners. This is still on my channel. You can find it in videos and playlists. When you subscribe, don't forget to hit that notification bell so you will be notified of everything new that I will post. The earth is raising its own vibration and ushering in the energy of truth, spirituality, and unconditional love. I try to put a message out every day to help you become aware of the divine universe, and that the universe is trying to get your attention and sending you a message. If you are resonating with this message so far, then congratulations on your own soul's journey. Welcome all new awakening people onto this channel. When you subscribe, don't forget to hit that notification bell. You will be notified of everything new that I post. I am grateful for all of my loyal subscribers, all of my new subscribers. I would not be able to grow this channel without you. Are you ready? Let's begin. I'll see you in the next video. Would love to hear from you.